the one who loves you. Hey, what's up? We are halfway through September, so it is time to start reading witchy fiction. I picked up my first witch fiction last year and I said, you know what, there's something here. I would go as far out as saying that witch fiction is, well, at this point, probably top 3 favorite genres, right? Because it does have to do with fantasy, and I do love fantasies. Today, we are gonna go over all of the witchy books that I've read in hopes to, I don't know, give you a little bit of inspiration for this upcoming season.
Little bitty buffy boo bitch.
Come. This right here is my witch fiction section. Here's my toast. Isn't he so cute? The toast is gonna go over with the westerns, but this is all witch fiction. Oh, Jimmy stopped by, so let me eat this and then I'll be back. Am I sitting on the floor to record this video because Emmy took the chair? Yeah, I am. Around here, cats rule the school. I have 19 books here that I've already read to talk about, and then I have 4 books that are on my witchy TBR physically that I have to talk about, but there's one book that I've lent out to friends. I've lent other books out to friends, but there's one in particular that I want to shout out because I feel just wrong making this video without talking about her, and that is the book Circe by Madeline Miller. Oh my gosh. This book, I believe, will carry me through multiple phases of my life as a woman. Was it the normal witchy fiction, cozy fantasy type of book? No. Was it even easy to go through? No, it actually wasn't. But was it necessary? Did it change my world as a literary woman? Yes, it did. It's very important and we should be reading it, especially with the day and age that we're in. Women are taking their power back, and I have not felt this good in centuries, so I really urge you to read Circe when you get the chance. I read it around winter time, when for me personally it feels a little bit more free to move slower, to really digest books. I'm not like with just ingesting book after book after book. Look at how cute this little hat is. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. I'm a little intimidated, so we're just gonna jump right in. Orally Wallace in the Company of Witches and When the Crow's Away. It's a duology. It is kind of set up like it's going to be more, but as I follow her on social media, it doesn't look like there is any plans to do a 3rd book. These 2 are very cozy murder mystery books, and the murders happen in this small town where these witches live. They own a B&B. It's the kind of small town where anyone and everyone could be a suspect. They use their magic to do some sleuthing. I love the size of these. These are so much fun. I wish that some books came in this size just because it was so much fun to carry these ones around. But I absolutely love this writing. It was very cozy. It feels like you're sitting next to a fire with a blanket on, just all snuggled up. Majority of these books do, just telling you right now. If you're already a thriller girly, then these just add a little bit of witchy spice to get you more into like the fall Halloween spirit. They're so adorable. Small town, big magic. There's a lot of controversy, personally to me. Like, probably not to everyone else, but for me, there's a lot of controversy around this one. This was my first witch fiction book ever, and I became really obsessed with the genre after that. So this book to me holds a very special place. I raved about this last year all around TikTok, and I got so many, not only just comments, but also DMs being like, your book taste is shit, this is awful, this is the worst book, it's so woke. I'm sitting over here like, I'm so sorry, like I had a really fun time and it got me inspired to read the rest of my books. And now, as a reader that reads just so avidly, this version of me is sticking up for the version of me last year where I'm like, shut the fuck up. Literally, if this book inspired me to go read other books, then this book I'm so thankful for, and I will be reading the 2nd book because of that. Am I a little bit nervous to reread this book eventually and then also read the 2nd book? Yeah. Because now that I've read all of these, am I gonna have higher standards? Probably. But this one was fun at the time. I still love the premise of it. Okay, so the tea is that this main character, she's a lot of friends, strong community, another small town. She owns like a little indie bookshop. It's just cute, you know, cute fall small town vibes. You know what I mean? Like, love the aesthetic. The aesthetic was aestheticing, but things seem off a little bit. Like, especially when you're reading at the beginning, you're like, you like notice a couple things. It's like, this is weird. This like creature comes out of nowhere, tries to attack her. She's like, you know, and like all of her powers unleashed, which she had no idea about, okay? So then she goes and she tells her friends, and her friends are like, yeah, we know. And she's like, what do you mean you know? And they're like, yeah, when we like, the school, like all the memories that you think you have, like those are true, but they're a little bit altered. Like the school that they went to was like a magic school, and the main character did something, and so her punishment was to get everything flushed out of her system, like all of her memories. She's unaware of her power inside, which is like, take her power away, like that's how you're gonna punish her, like get out of here. Her friends are like, yeah, we had to swear in secrecy. Like, she wakes up and she's like, what the fuck? Okay, and also, what was coming after me? I gotcha. I'm not gonna tell you what else, but that's just like the premise of it, and I loved it. I thought that was so much fun. As someone that didn't read fantasy prior, of course that's gonna be fun, you know what I mean? So I'm really looking forward to reading the second book soon. The Witch Haven and The Witch Hunt. These are YA dark academia. Did I say that right? I never think that I say academia correctly. These are YA dark academia witch books set in the very early 1900s. There's a girls' school and a boys' school, so you know where that's going. There are also murders that they have to solve. That's all I'm going to tell you. These are fun reads. Who wouldn't want to read about rich kids that find out that they're witches in New York, right? I mean, it's great. Yeah, I like these a lot. And they also have kind of a darker side, more than like the air fluffy cotton candy feel. Ex Hex and the Kiss Curse, I freaking love this series. These are shorter books. These are so much fun if you're looking to read anything for October and like this is not your cup of tea, like you're not really interested but you want to get in the vibe a little bit. These are the ones that I definitely recommend for you. They're heavy on the romance, so it's not necessarily like the whole thing isn't just like witches and magic, and it's not like the magic system isn't like super heavy in these. The main characters in these are cousins, and this is the first one. In the Ex Hex, Vivian gets her heart broken 9 years ago. The boy just happens to be the founder of their town's grandson. She ends up cursing him. Fast forward 9 years, and Ride still has to come back to the town to charge the ley lines, and then leaves again. Like, he has a life completely separate. Well, then he comes and he charges those ley lines up. The curse is caught up to him. So what is he gonna do about it? And oh, hi, Lucy. I love you so much. Oh my gosh, that was out of nowhere, sis. She was just laying there and then she saw me and she was like, yep, I'm gonna get up and she's bringing me a toy now. She's bringing me a toy. Hi. We gotta show him now. Sit for me. Sit. Drop it. Sit. Oh my gosh, we didn't show them. Hold on. Because of my obsession with witch fiction last year, Lucy was... Wait, Lucy? Oh, here's Phoebe. Oh, darling. Lucy was a witch last year. Lucy. She was a witch for Halloween. Phoebe wants to wear it. My babies. Now my baby! These are just like the coziest, most like generic, lovey-dovey rom-com witch books that I recommend to you if you're just getting into witch fiction and you don't know what to read. So, The Very Secret Society of Witches, this book got so much hype last year. Found Family, Witch Isolation, Orphans, Sunshine, and Grump. The main character, Micah, she creates a online persona of like a witch and she makes videos not thinking that anyone will take it seriously. And for the most part, no one does take it seriously until someone actually does. And they call her and they're like, hey, listen, we need a nanny. We need a live-in nanny. Anyway, she needs somewhere to live. So she's like, all right, let's go. She gets there and the kids all have magic powers. The person that found her on the internet is like, listen, I know that your powers are real. Like, I can tell that you're doing the exact same thing that they're doing. We need you to teach them all that you can because someone's coming to inspect the house in a couple months and they right now are unpredictable. And if someone finds out about them, awful things can happen. It's another one of the very cozy rom-com-y cotton candy books. It won't get your nervous system tangled, okay? It might be calm, it might help you relax a little bit, but this one's cute, this one's fun. Can't really go wrong with this one. This series, bitch. Oh my gosh, I love this series. I love this series. And I was in the right mindset to read this series fell so hard for this writing, okay? And I will also tell you that no one really, I've never heard anyone else talk about these books. So get on it, because no one's talked about these books, whether good or bad. A lot of times people talk bad about my witch fiction books and I'm like, bleh, but these ones, I feel like I'm gatekeeping them even though I talk about them every 5 minutes. Witch Please is my 4-star out of the whole series. The other 2 are 5 stars, but I highly recommend reading this one in order for the other ones to soar. This one walks so the others can run. I really, really believe that. Danica's a witch. She's in a coven. Danica and her cousin excel with their powers when it comes to things with technology or electronics. So they own a company called Fix It Witches, where they just like fix it up, you know what I mean? Like they're like the handymans around town. The guy rolls into town, they always do, and he ends up opening a bakery called Sugar Daddy's, and the rest is history. You really get a feel for the characters and their dynamic in this book, because then the ones that I really attached to like show up again in this book, and it's their stories, and I'm so happy that I read this one first and kind of was like curious about the other ones. I love this series. Let's get to the next ones. All right, the main characters in Boss Witch I got so attached to. This is literally one of my top 10 favorite books, and it's probably up there. I love this dynamic. I love just them, and I love like the gruffness and everything. It's kind of like they're kind of giving Heartless, you know, if you've read Chestnut Springs. If you haven't, just disregard this, but if you've read Chestnut Springs, like not like the single dad trope, but just like the personalities of both of them, this is what this one's giving, and that's what that one reminded me of. Oh my gosh, I love it. So Clem is kind of like the more like rough around the edges, like I gotta do what I gotta do for the family. Guess who strolls into town on a motorcycle, nonetheless? The witch hunter, okay? His name's Gavin, and he hates being the witch hunter. But do the witches know that? No, they don't. When Clementine's talked about behind the scenes in Witch Please, it's because she's like off dealing with the witch hunter, and this is the story of them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have zoomed out of that story and like zoomed back into this one. I love their dynamic, and I love just like, I love the writing of just like a, you know, like gruff and tough and motorcycle riding, like just like tough man. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. So yeah, that's this one. Extra Witchy, this is the other story that I got like really attached to the characters, and I was not expecting it from this one. This one really like just caught me off of guard. Titus, this one, the guy in this book, he has a best friend, because it's usually like, oh, like bring your friend because like to my coven meeting, even though you don't know it's a coven meeting, you know what I mean? Like that's like the kind of situations that she puts him in this one. Well, the guy is in the, his best friend is the main character of this one. When Leanne sees Titus at the coven meeting, she's just like, he's so classically, or like generic, like not generic, but like classically just so attractive, and she is running for something in the government, I think mayor. So she's like, what's gonna spike ratings? Being married to that family, you know what I mean? Trevor in the other books is kind of looked at as like the lazy friend, just like the guy that's kind of always around. He needs a ride or like whatever. He still lives with his parents. Like you really see his background in this one, and that's why I love this book so much, because I'm like, oh my gosh, the way that some people are perceived, but really they are just like a 10 in a turn person. I love him. He's so supportive of our mayor girl boss queen. So she's like, let's get married and you move in, but like just until the election's over or until my term is up or whatever. Like let's just see what happens. But you need somewhere to live, so you can come live with me. Get out of your parents' house, like get on your feet. I'll give you a job. And yeah, that's what this is them figuring that out. And the way that he treats her like a queen, you need to read it right now. Payback's a Witch. You've probably seen this everywhere if you are looking for witch books. Maybe I was in the right headspace, and I will eventually probably read these books again one of these seasons or years, or I don't know when, but I remember not liking the writing style of this book. The tip of the iceberg for me being like, yeah, no, I'm not going to continue with this series or this book was at the exact halfway point of this book, the book started over. Yeah, so it was a misprint, so I couldn't even finish the book. So I was like, you know what? No, I'm not doing that right now. That's all I have to say about that one. I have really an opinion because my book was a misprint. The Lost Apothecary. This is a dual timeline between an 18th century apothecary situation and what was happening back then compared to the present day. This lady catches her soon-to-be husband cheating on her. She's like, you know what, F you, I'm gonna go on our honeymoon by myself, and while she's on the honeymoon by herself, she finds a vial. The vial leads her to this like lost apothecary. I think that I liked the idea a lot better than I liked the execution of it. I think that I was kind of bored about the writing, but the whole idea of like the apothecary and like going back and forth between timelines was really intriguing to me, like that historical aspect of it. She had to do some research in order to know like how apothecaries ran back then, so I thought it was really interesting. The present day, I was just kind of like, nah. You might think that it is so exciting. However, I think that if the pace was just like a little bit faster, or not even a little bit, if the pace was faster, okay, I think that I would have liked it a whole lot more. But because it was slower, I was just kind of like, it was kind of like dragging on in some spots, and I was just like, okay, this is not needed. You know, you could have made this part a little bit better. Yeah, this writing style was just like not for me in the moment. The idea was really cool. I know some people, it was like their top read of last year. It was like in the top 5 reads of theirs last year. So you might really, really, really love it. That was just like a little synopsis of like what's going on. So if that seems intriguing to you, then I totally think that you should read it. It just wasn't necessarily for me. Letter to Three Witches. This is one of the books that I read actually this year, kind of recently, and then a second book came out the day that I finished this book. Lovely. I love that. So I will be reading the second book. Just telling you right now, I did enjoy this book. It's about a family of witches, but just like the kids. It's not like the parents or anything. They're all cousins. One of their cousins they like really don't get along with. The cousin leaves everyone a note being like, hey, I'm leaving. I'm getting out of town. Like, you'll never have to deal with me ever again, but just letting you know that I am stealing one of your mans. Just letting you know that I've been secretly having an affair with one of your mans behind your back and I'm taking him with me. As I go over that, I'm kind of like, what? Like, that sounds so cheesy. And it is very cheesy, but it's just funny because all of their mans happens to be like on a business trip. They were already in the middle of a fight, so they're not talking, and it's like, it's so, I loved it, and it just seems so like human to me. It was fun to read about like this family, their relationship with this like eccentric family member that they just don't really like in the first place, but also like, how did they get there? I really liked this book. This book was a lot of fun. One tip though, if you're gonna read this book, I would say sit down, any book, honestly, any book, but like sit down and read like the first 50 pages. Like, give yourself just like a little bit of time to get into these books, because sometimes the magic systems can just be like, wait, what's happening? And that's kind of how I felt with this one at first. Like I said, like, oh, she's gonna steal one of their mans. Like, how cheesy is this? Like, maybe I won't like it. That's kind of how I felt at first. And then like the more I got into it, I'm like, okay, this is so cute and this is fun and this is just like the vibe. This is just like the cozy witch, like fun rom-com vibe, okay? So I urge you to like get into it a little bit. So yeah, it was fun. A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. I love this cover. It's so gorgeous. I love the yellow. I just think that it's like so different. All of these books are kind of like red or like blues or purples or blacks. I mean, it's just kind of giving like witch, you know? But this one I just think is like so fun and upbeat. This one was kind of long. I really didn't like it because they're older. I'm pretty sure they're in their early 30s, I want to say, maybe late 20s, but like early 30s, and they act like complete children. One of them is supposed to be like this like centuries old, and they act like so young, just so, I'm like, this is so childish. The whole time I just kept thinking, be real. I did have someone comment on my TikTok video talking about that, and they were like, hey, I'm in high school and just letting you know, like, this was exactly what I needed, and I loved it, and it's probably because I'm younger, but like, you know, I vibe with this relationship and stuff, and I'm like, see, exactly. Like, I love that it's for someone, and I love that someone got what they needed out of it, but like, they were in their early 30s, and so it's like, you know, it's just kind of like, I love that. I love that it's what you needed, you know, as a high school student. I love that that's what you needed. I love that you got what you got out of it. But keep in mind, these are not high school students. So yeah, it was just like a little bit childish. And I know that a lot of these relationships are very like fluffy and childish. Okay, you know, it's kind of like what the vibe is. So to actually go out of my way to be like, this is like so childish and just kind of like really cringe, means that it really is kind of childish. You know what I mean? I don't mean to be mean or anything. I still think this is like the most beautiful book ever. Will I read the second book? I don't know. I guess it probably depends on the mood that I'm in. Was I in the mood? I think I was in the mood, so I don't know. If I happen across it, you know, I'll read a witch book. The best kind of magic. This one is so floppy. I love it. This book I actually found on Audible because there's 3. It's a series. All 3 of them are free on Audible. So if you're looking for a witch book and you also have Audible, then these were not bad to listen. I liked the narrator. However, I think that I would have probably liked it more in my own voice just because the narrator made them sound so young, you know, and that's totally fine. But I just think that if it was in my own voice, they probably would have been just like a little bit more mature because it wasn't the writing. It was more the way that the voice was portrayed, you know? I don't know if that makes sense. If you listen to audiobooks, then like you'll know what I'm talking about. These books follow Amber, and she comes from a line of witches. She didn't inherit any of the normal powers that a witch inherits. She ends up only getting one power, and that is she sees true love. She's a matchmaker, so she can look in someone's eyes and be like, that is who you are meant to be with. She sees like little pictures and movies and stuff like that. That was a really cute aspect of like the magic system in this. There's word around town that she's like a witch, but I don't think that anyone actually like necessarily like fully believes it. So when the mayor's girlfriend goes missing, the mayor's son comes to her, who's also in her class, and he's like the cutest boy in the school, you know? He like comes to her and he's like, I think that you're a witch. Like, I think that I've heard that. Like, can you help me? And they're figuring this situation out to the best of their abilities. LOML. I just identify with Amber especially. Well, I do kind of like still now. I just like root for her so much. Sometimes we have just the best intentions with things and they just like get us into some shit. And I really enjoyed Amber because of that, and I was looking out for her when I was listening to this. The Windy City series. Next we have the Modern Girls The Modern Girls Guide to Magic, also a floppy one. I read this one on Kindle Unlimited one day and completely finished the whole thing. It's now probably top 3 favorite witch books that I've ever read, and I've read a lot of books. So I ended up purchasing it, but just know that you can get this one on Kindle Unlimited, and I believe that it's going to be a 3-part series, and I think that the second one just came out or it's about to come. In this book we have Arya, and she comes from a family of witches, but she's kind of the black sheep of the family. Like, her powers she's never really been able to trust. Like, when she tries to use them, they just like, blah, 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 you know, like they just like kind of go everywhere. They're not like, you know, grounded. She needs some like grounding. So when she gets out of school, she's like, bye, see ya. In this book, her grandma calls her and she's like, listen, the person in their little small town that has like the biggest magical fortune is retiring. There's going to be a competition for the biggest magical fortune in England, and every witch family has to put someone in to compete. Think like Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, but it's more cozy, small town, lower stakes. Who shows up? Arya's nemesis, Callahan. Oh, and he just happened to win like sexiest witch male of the year. There's not just one scene where there's only one bed. What are they gonna do? There's only one room at the end. There's 2 scenes. My imagination was having a field day with the imagery that was happening in this competition. Highly, highly, highly recommend reading this, and why not? Spells for Lost Things. Our main character is Willow, and her mom's sister passes away early on in this book, so they go to Salem, Massachusetts to figure out her sister's estate. And number 1, she didn't even realize that her mom had a sister. Number 2, she has family in Salem. What? So imagine her surprise when she shows up to this like giant witch house, and her great aunts are these like little cute little, like, they remind me of like the Bippity Boppity Boo, like little aunts. They're just like so sweet and just like witchy, and just that's their focus. That's no other care in the world. They're just like cute. Willow finds all this stuff out. She just has this crisis, and while she's having like her little freak out, she goes to the roof and she finds this kid named Mason. We love Mason. He's a baby boy that needs to be protected at all costs. Mason is in the foster care system, and so he just keeps going from like foster family to foster family to foster family. His mom, who is currently missing, her bestie eventually speaks up and she's like, hey, listen, let me take Mason. And he goes to live with his mom's bestie, kind of pushes them away just because it's like, oh really, like you cared so much about my mom, like she was your best friend. Where were you like my whole life? Like, where were you since she's gone missing? Where have you been? You know, so he's going through that. Willow's going through the whole family situation. They are just there to lean on each other, and it's so cute. Definitely check your trigger warnings. Parents that are users, abuse drugs, that type of situation. Are you sick of me? I hope not. Okay, let's go over the 4 books that I have to read really quick and then we'll wrap it up. I love this light. Go hex yourself. This is what I'm currently reading. You can see my little bookmark. This little lady sees the ad in the paper for someone that needs an assistant. So she's like, okay, I'll go check it out. She's at this house. She's like, huh, interesting. Like maybe they work from home. She goes in and she learns that she is interviewing to be a live-in assistant for a witch. And she's like, these people are crazy. Like, what is happening? So she's like, couldn't hurt. Let's just do it for a couple months. This guy is the witch's nephew and he's like, Auntie, she literally doesn't believe in magic. What makes you think that she can provide the service that we need her to provide? And the aunt's like, but you don't even live here. This is a love story in the making, okay? I can see it from here. So this is really good actually so far. I'm so excited. I want to sit down and binge it, okay? Okay, remember how I talked about these books and how it's like my favorite witch series and I just like totally told you should read it and I'm saying it again, you should totally read it. Well, we have The Only Purple House in Town. This book just came out this year. I have not read it yet. I don't think that it's as involved as these 3 books are, but I do think that it takes place in like the same town, the same, I don't know what's gonna be the same about it, but I love the cover of it and that's all that I know right now. It's very cute and fun and I love the writing. I love Anna Aguirre's writing. Stay tuned because I will be reading this like as soon as October starts. My next 2 books, I have The Witching Time. Lucy. My next 2 books are, oh, there's Phoebe. They're telling me it's time. My last 2 books are The Witching Tide, and she's hitting it with her tail. My last 2 books are The Witching Tide and The Nature of Witches, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what they are, and I don't plan on knowing what they are. I will let you know whenever I read them because I'm gonna be reading them later this month, like next week, or early next month. So I will be reading these ones very soon, but these are what's on my TBR currently, and I don't really like to read the back of it. I get it, it's about witches. It's time for me to go. Thank you so much for listening to all about my witch books. I eventually want to do a video about like magic systems and get more into detail about that kind of thing. Have a great witchy reading season. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for us and just like to get in like the cozy like bibbidi babbidi boo fashion. Okay, I love you so much. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, great rest of your season, great rest of your year. Okay, bye. See you later.